Hello, I'm Anita Lawrence, and I'll be your Good Day Sun Lakes host for a conversation today with outgoing board members Sandy Moyer and Jack Sidwell. Welcome, Sandy and Jack. I'd like to thank you for making time in your schedule to come and talk to the residents about your time on the Master Board.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Sandy.
Well, I have been on the board for 5 years. My last date official is April 14th. And during those 5 years, it's been a roller coaster ride for sure. I want to say the first year was a learning curve for me, and luckily there weren't any major concerns or activities going on at that time. But after that, I don't know what happened, but away we went. The many challenges that I had to address was the second year was we had the BOE, as everyone knows, and along with that there was the up and down about whether we were going to give out traffic tickets for speeding and so forth in Sun Lakes, which was a major upheaval. Then we had finding a new management company, which took us a good 6 months.
Yeah, good 6 months or a year.
To go out and do that. That was a lot of time, very challenging, sleepless nights, because it was a major change and we wanted to make sure that we got it correct. And then came COVID, and that was the major one. Yep. that got us. And when I think about that, I called it the good, the bad, and the ugly, because the bad was we had to shut everything down, and we all had to be isolated. That sense of community went out the window. And then they would allow us to open up, and we'd get it open, be open 2 weeks, and boom, nope, got to close down again. It was not only hard on the residents, it was hard on the staff. I mean, First Service was quick to respond and get things put in place the way you were supposed to, and made sure we followed all the county and state guidelines.
They've done a marvelous job at it too.
They have, and setting up and spreading out the tables, then when they closed again, telling us how are we going to have our board meetings so that the residents can be a part of it. And of course you all know the Zoom did not work too well. We tried, but it did not work very well. But eventually then we were able to film it and get it on Channel 97, so you could watch it. The ugly, of course, was losing all of our friends and neighbors that fell to that ugly COVID-19. But some good did come out of this.
Losing our staff was one of the problems we had. Very valuable staff, but like Sandy said, that losing a lot of members to COVID-19 that were dear friends of ours, and also for those people being quarantined for long periods of time, it was very difficult for them without having a hobby. And so there's been a lot of mental anguish, I'm sure, in the community based on just that the quarantine of people. So
and not being able to have a memorial for the people as well. To me, that was just heart-wrenching.
Yes, it was.
It was. And but communication. Going back to the good, communication's always been a contention ever since I've lived here, and we've lived here in Sun Lakes for 18 years. And I have to say, this past 18 months, we have moved forward tremendously in that area. We have our communication committee.
Right.
And now we already had started to revamp Channel 97. Well, they have more than enhanced that. They've added the Good Day Sun Lakes.
And they've got E-Blast.
And the E-Blast.
And they've got Sun Lakes Life. You have lifestyles. So there's a number of avenues to get out information. If people would just take advantage of those and be able to find it themselves, it would be a great help. So.
And during that shutdown time, we had the formation of the Restaurant Task Force, and out of that came the E-Blasts, where now you get your daily specials, so you know right away that you can order. Besides, if there's any emergencies or the COVID shots, you were given the information that went out in the e-blast. So that to me was a positive. So when I hear residents say that there's no transparency, there's no communication, the communication is there, and Jack and I just mentioned all the avenues that you have. It's not the board, it's the residents. You have to take time to go and watch it or read it. I mean, that's your responsibility. It is not ours to call and say, well, I didn't know about this, and expect us to spend our time to redo what we've already done and put it out there.
You can turn in and watch the board meetings on Channel 97 or the delegates meeting on Channel 97, and get, that information is very valuable in most cases. So.
And go
yeah,
ahead.
Okay. Even though my stay this time has only been 6 months, I was on the board previously, and it's been a real pleasure. It was quite an honor when Sandy called me one day and said, would you mind serving on the board to fill in a vacancy? And I jumped at the chance because I've always enjoyed being on the board, and I think everyone in this community should have a chance to serve on the board. It's quite an eye-opener because you don't realize how big of a business we're running here. So, and it's a complicated business, and it's a lot of intricacies that most people don't realize. But it's been a great pleasure because I get to know and work with the staff, and they're very talented, and they know what needs to be done, and they're great advisors to us on the board, and also the valuable assets the delegates give us, and all these different committees. It's just wonderful amount of information they would give to us along, and so it's just been great. So,
and adding to that. Me as well. I also have enjoyed being on the board and am honored to have had that chance. And working with a team to enhance the works of the past boards, to add and continue that, and to increase, hopefully, the quality of our lifestyle here. And the other thing that I found that I didn't think about when I first got on the board was the number of people that I have been able to meet and work with, from my past board members to all the committees that Jack referred to, the delegates, all the committees, the management, and people that called me on the phone, people I probably would have never come in contact with. This is a huge community. And I found that in the end, it actually helped me to grow. We were not always right, and residents would call and say, what are you doing? And they would give me their perspective and their side, something that maybe we didn't think about. I would bring it back to the board. Sometimes we would change things and say, okay, we would backtrack and say they're right. We would change it. Sometimes we didn't, so you would have to just agree to disagree. But I grew as a person myself during these 5 years, and I want to thank the people for that. And going forward, continue to come forward with your ideas or complaints in a respectful manner. The board will listen. They won't always agree with you, but a lot of times we'll look at it and say, because sometimes we were on a time crunch and we just did something quickly and didn't take into account, all the issues.
And just to expand on that, is 5 members on the board of directors. You're never going to have 5 people that will agree all the time on all issues. So there's always going to be disagreements, but in the end, you have to work as a team to come up with what is best for Sun Lakes. And that's why in executive meetings, at board meetings, you come up with a conclusion that is probably the best idea for Sun Lakes. Now, and that helpful information comes, a lot of it, from First Residential. I know when I was on the board before with a different management company, and they didn't offer nearly the amount of services that this First Residential gives us. And so when they have 2 members sitting in on the executive meeting every month, and they're able to help us answer some questions that we had no idea how to get information about. So they provide us with a significant number of solutions to a lot of problems. So I want to thank them significantly.
Absolutely. Sun Lakes is such a large and complex community that it is a key to have a management company here. They offer so many resources to us, as Jack had mentioned, and they are there to help guide us with all the rules, regulations, fair housing, state statutes, all of that we need at different times to make our decisions. And as the years go, boards change, but you have your management company, and that keeps the continuity. They have the history, the background to help the incoming boards going forward. So it is, to me, imperative that you have a good management company, and I feel we do. As Jack said, this was the first company that where they actually have their regional and their VP there at almost every one of our meetings. They do not infringe on the meetings. They're simply there. If we ask them, they offer their input. They have sent us out, when we were looking at major issues, to go to other communities who have already done that, to see what their issues were, what their problems were, what worked, what didn't work. We never had that before. So that was very beneficial to the whole board during those processes.
And I would certainly hope, and I would recommend that going forward, that we would get some things passed, especially the POS system that we have here that we want to change. It's a very step forward, and it would offer us a great deal of flexibility in setting up appointments for rooms, the food service, and the whole variety of things, setting up golf appointments. And there's been a lot of people right now have a feeling that we're going to, all that information about them is going to be dissipated throughout the whole world. That's not true. Sun Lakes will own that information, and we're not about to give that up in any way, shape, or form. So I just want to try to make sure that everybody knew that. It's an extremely important part of this new POS system.
And also going forward, you're going to be seeing interviews with the staff in the admin office, so you really can put a face to the person you're talking to on the phone, because they do a lot of work for you, and it's hard, and they're on the go constantly. And I know you know Jason is, because you see him running back and forth all the time. But they always have something to do, and then they get a call and get interrupted. It's not an easy job, and they do the best they can, and I think they do a good job.
Yeah, if someone wants a real experience, you ought to go to the office sometime when things are open up and sit there and watch the staff communicate and run it about that office. They're busy all day long. In fact, they've done some things. They've made calls like on the information about the age verification. They took it upon themselves to call everybody themselves instead of having the delegates do it. That way they would have a central location and do it all. So they're just a marvelous staff, and they do a great job. So.
And going back to that, when we were going through this COVID, Jason was on the phone to the county almost every day, because there was constant changes, and then he would inform the board, and he'd say, we have to do this or we have to do that. When it came to the COVID shots, and I gave them the contact, and I want to say that's one thing I'm very proud of, that my husband and I were an intricate part of getting those shots brought here, and the staff stepped in when I found out what we had to do. The management here, they stepped in and said no problem, and away they went and got it set up, and it went forward. And Jason would be calling, and then he'd get it, and then the communication committee would get it out on eBlast and Good Day Sun Lake, so people knew what was happening.
And I want to thank Sandy and George, too, for this COVID, setting this whole thing up. It's been marvelous. In fact, hopefully maybe we can get the flu vaccine the same way done. So this leads to other avenues. So we're hoping that this will take place. So. Yeah.
And I was trying to think of all the things that we've done. I am proud of the change in the management company, of the COVID shots. The Spectrum contract was another one that we got through, and I know that was, people were concerned and a lot of questions, and they didn't quite understand, and we were trying to explain. But once it happened, once they got that final bill and saw how much money they saved, then I think most people, okay, I got it.
And most people don't realize that how smoothly it went off. Even the board members thought this is going to be a total fiasco, but it actually ended up running very, very smoothly. And so it came off absolutely beautiful.
What most people don't know, though, is the beginning, in the beginning of this contract, Spectrum was playing a game. And when I say, excuse me, Spectrum, I'm talking about their corporate. And they would send me an email and say, okay, Sandy, we got this set. You need to come down and sign the contract. I'm going, what are they talking about? I don't have the final say. I'm not signing any contract. They did this 3 different times because we kept telling them no. And in fact, got to the point, we were so upset. And I said, okay, we're done with this. We went to our attorney and said, you deal with their attorney and you tell them this. They either do this correctly this way or the whole thing's off. We'll finish out our cable and that's it. We called their bluff, and I mean this went on for 2 months before they finally realized, you know, had I known they were going to do that, we'd ask for less money. But it's okay because what we did get a great deal. But they did give us a hard time thinking that they were going to pull the wool over our eyes, and it didn't happen. So. And
another thing that's coming up on this coming election is the proposal to change one of the amendments for housing rentals and stuff. So, but fortunately, that bill's already been passed, but we're working on through the legislature to help, and want to thank George Moyer for helping out on that. And so that's being handled through the legislature now through Senator Bowe and Assemblyman Chad Mays and other people. So hopefully we can get something solved from that will relieve some of the HOAs from having this problem.
And I think some of the other accomplishments we've done was the main clubhouse refresh, the bar refresh. They've just done the pro shop. You're going to be seeing a film on so you can see the bar and the pro shop, how it came out. Both came out beautifully.
And another thing I would like to see finished is the expansion of the lounge. I know we're supposed to come up with this next week some ideas for the architect. Then the next board will have to deal with it, but still, it'll be a great asset to this community because it'll expand the lounge and have more seating. And so we're hoping to come up with a wish list this next week to maybe get this thing started and see it to fruition. So.
Right. And I want to also say during the COVID, it's been difficult. It was difficult shutting everything down. It was very difficult for the board to make the decision to shut the restaurant down, not only because we had to, but there was a time where we said, no, we can't go forward with this because residents weren't coming down and utilizing even the curbside even, and it was just costing us too much money. So we closed it for a while to relook at what was going on. That's when the restaurant task force came about. We looked at how do we want to see it when we reopen, and what can we do now during COVID? And at that time, we brought the curbside back. We added home delivery.
Yes.
And then, of course, we got those e-blasts going. And then and we said the restaurant will be open by March 26th. We gave them a date, said that, you have to do it. Now, of course, you had to get staff, and they've been doing that. They don't have staff to do both outside and inside, and I've kind of explained this at the delegates, because she's still working on it, they're working on it, but all the restaurants are reopening, so they're all getting their staff and hiring more staff, so we're dealing with that. But what I said was, on the days where the outside were, like today is a miserable day to be outside eating if we were open, we're not going to open until Friday the 26th, then we'll bring them inside to the ballroom. Because otherwise, if you had it trying to do both at the same time right now with not enough staff, then residents start calling and complaining, I'm sitting here waiting and there's nobody here out on the veranda. So they get out to the veranda, the ones in the restaurant are saying, where are the servers? It's not that they're not hustling and doing their job, we just don't have enough right now to open both. But depending on weather, you'll either be outside on the veranda or inside in the ballroom.
And another reason that's having a hard time finding staff is that because the state of California, and the federal government too, has given such generous unemployment insurance that people can make more on unemployment insurance than they can working for a minimum wage here. So that becomes a real problem. That's why it's very difficult to find new staff members, and it's very, very difficult. So.
And that's very true. I forgot about that because Sherry said actually people told her no, they're not coming back. They're making more money staying at home, and so it's been a challenge all the way around.
That's probably one of the most significant challenges we've had. So, and another thing I would like to recommend is people that want to serve on the board. I would recommend that when you come on the board, you not come with a preconceived notion of I want to do this, I'm going to do this, type thing. Or maybe one of them might do this, but not to having a prearranged agenda, because that makes it so difficult, because you have to try to convince 4 other people of that too. So that's why you have to work together as a team, and it's vitally important teamwork on the board of directors.
And my message to the new board is, as Jack said, be a team member. Listen and talk to your fellow board members. Listen to management if you need input on if it relates to rules, regulations, past history. Listen to the residents, and then the bottom line is you make your decision based on fiduciary business judgment and what's best for Sun Lakes. And that's all you can do. You do what's best and what's in your heart.
Yeah, it's amazing how, when you get on the board of directors, how it's easy to find out how much money you have to spend keeping this operation running properly and the way that it was intended for. Just dealing with trees alone that Presley put in. Now they're all mature. Some of them are having to come out. They're falling down, creating problems. So it's a real upkeep problem for the infrastructure. So it's an interesting challenge, the board of directors. So.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to the residents being able to come back out. We get all the amenities open again, and they can all come back. I think we're all going to have a much better appreciation for what we have here. That old adage that you didn't really know what you had till you lost it, I think this should have brought some light to many of us of how beautiful a community we have and what we do have here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing my friends and neighbors out and about and laughing and interacting. And me personally, I'm going to play a lot more golf because I won't be running from one meeting to the next 3 and 4 times a week. So, but I will be here. I will be here to help any of the board members if they have a question or any residents. And everyone has told me that sooner or later I'll be back doing something, and they're probably right, but I'm going to take a break. I need a mental and physical break.
Well, I want to compliment Sandy because between she and George alone, they've spent 13 years on the board of directors, and that's amazing to me. So thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. Thank you. So I want to just say goodbye. Not really goodbye. Just I will see you, but with a different hat this time, and looking forward to getting back to normal.
Yeah, the same for me. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll be glad to answer questions for people, and so I want to say thank you again for the board of directors and to our staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandy and Jack, for giving us some insight into your time on the Master Board.